Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into one of the absolutely coolest and, yeah, sometimes most frustrating survival mechanisms you'll ever see in a home garden: how raspberries reproduce. Seriously, if you've ever planted just one single raspberry bush and then come back a year later to find a massive, dense thicket, well, you've already witnessed this incredible botanical engineering firsthand. So, get this. Did you know a raspberry root system can essentially clone itself indefinitely? No, really, it's true. Through this wild mechanism involving something called adventitious buds, a single healthy raspberry plant can aggressively take over an entire yard if you leave it unchecked. But hey, as gardeners, we can actually hijack this aggressive growth to multiply our harvest completely for free. Here's a quick look at the agenda for our explainer today. We'll start with a brief introduction to raspberries, then we'll get right into understanding root suckers, preparing for propagation, a step-by-step guide, some troubleshooting, and finally, long-term care.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, Introduction to Raspberries and Their Growth. So raspberries are these incredibly hardy, super popular home garden berries. Now, sure, they do produce seeds, but their most effective, aggressive way of spreading is actually completely hidden out of sight, right beneath the soil. It's called a root sucker, or sometimes you'll hear it called a root sprout. Basically, this is a brand new plant shoot that emerges directly from the plant's underground lateral root system. As a raspberry plant matures, it sends roots out horizontally, sometimes reaching up to twice the height of the plant itself. And from those roots, new canes just pop up. Since these suckers are exact clones, they share the exact same DNA as the parent plant. When you sever them from the main root, boom, they become fully independent plants. Moving right along to Section 2, Understanding Raspberry Root Suckers.
Now, you might be wondering, how exactly do roots, which are supposed to just absorb water and nutrients, suddenly decide to sprout leaves and canes? Well, the secret is something called adventitious buds. Think of these as the plant's built-in survival and expansion mechanism. Usually, buds are pretty predictable, right? They show up on stems to make leaves and flowers. But adventitious buds? They are rogue outliers. They take advantage of unusual opportunities and appear in the weirdest places, like directly on the underground roots. In the wild, this literal superpower allows raspberries to rapidly reclaim areas cleared by fire or logging, creating those massive, sprawling thickets we talked about earlier. Let's think about the contrast here. Normal stem buds, like terminal buds at the ends of stems or lateral ones along the sides, grow from specialized plant cells at the nodes. We fully expect to see them there. Adventitious root buds, on the other hand, just pop up along the horizontal underground roots as a form of vegetative reproduction. This is exactly what allows the plant to send up those new suckers, sometimes feet away from the original cane. It's almost like a subterranean sneak attack. Okay, let's get into the practical stuff with Section 3, Preparing for Propagation. The absolutely crucial point here is your timing and preparation. The absolute best time to transplant these suckers is during a dormant period. So you're looking at either late autumn, right after the canes have shed their leaves, or early spring before any active growth kicks off. Why? Well, the plant is way less stressed when it's dormant, and the cooler weather lets it focus all its energy downward. For tools, you'll just need some healthy, disease-free mother plants, a nice sharp spade or trowel, and if you're potting them up, a really well-draining mix. Raspberries aren't super fussy, but they literally hate heavy, clumpy soil. Mixing some compost and horticultural sand is just perfect to make sure you get that essential drainage.
Now for the really fun part, Section 4, Step-by-Step Propagation Guide.
All right, here is your step-by-step game plan. Step 1. Locate a healthy sucker that's popped up at least 1 to 2 feet away from the mother plant. Step 2. Take your spade and carefully dig a circle around the sucker, going about 6 inches out. You want to loosen the soil up without snapping the cane off the root. Step 3. Reach right in there and sever the connecting horizontal root. You absolutely need to make sure you harvest at least 4 inches of that horizontal root still attached to your new cane. Step 4. You've got to trim the leaves, which will break down in just a second. And Step 5. Replant it immediately. The absolute golden rule here is depth. Make sure the brown part of the stem is buried in the soil and the green part is above ground, exactly at the same depth it was growing before. So, about trimming those leaves. There is a specific, expert rule of thumb for Step 4, and it goes like this. Leave 1 leaflet set for each inch of horizontal root you harvested. Since raspberries have 3 leaflets to a single leaf, if you dig up a sucker with 4 inches of horizontal root, you leave 4 leaflet sets on the cane and literally trim all the rest away. Why do we do this?
Well, that newly severed root system is really small. If you leave all the original leaves on the cane, that tiny root system will completely exhaust itself trying to hydrate all that foliage, and your cutting is going to fail. As the old gardening saying goes, roots before shoots.
Let's talk about what can go wrong in Section 5, troubleshooting and expert tips.
Before you even think about taking a cutting, there are 3 very common ailments you need to keep an eye out for. First up is orange rust. You'll spot this as stunted growth and these really bright orange spores on the undersides of the leaves. It's a systemic fungus, meaning once a plant has it, it's done for. Fungicides just don't work well here, so your only real solution is to dig up and completely destroy any infected plants. Next is powdery mildew. This one looks like a weird white fuzzy mycelial growth on the leaves. The easy fix here? Just improve your air circulation. Keep your rows narrow and thin out any dense canes. Finally, there's cane blight, which shows up as brown or purple lesions right on the stems. The expert tip to prevent this is to only prune or tip your canes when you have a solid forecast of at least 3 dry days. That gives the cuts time to heal up before any fungal spores can sneak in.
Almost done. Let's wrap things up with Section 6, benefits and long-term care.
The biggest takeaway for this whole process is the sheer speed of the method. Unlike starting from seed, propagating suckers gives you rapid plant maturity. I mean, a lot of the time, these clones will actually produce fruit in the exact same season. It's just an amazing way to multiply your stock for free. For long-term care, you'll want to keep the soil nice and moist, but definitely avoid marshy conditions. Overly wet soil is an open invitation for root rot. And please, please heed this warning. Because you now know exactly how aggressively adventitious buds can spread, you should always plant your new raspberries in containers or make sure you use underground root barriers. Seriously, if you don't, your carefully planned garden patch is going to turn to a wild, thorny jungle before you know it.
Before we go, I do need to quickly read this disclaimer for you. The information provided is based on available knowledge and practices as of August 20, 2026. Microclimates, soil types, and local pest populations can vary wildly, so please consult your local gardening experts or university extension resources for region-specific advice to make sure your berry patch absolutely thrives.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. Are you ready to multiply your berry harvest? Or will you let those raspberry roots run wild? By simply understanding the biology of adventitious buds, you can totally take control of your garden and turn a single plant into an endless supply of fresh summer fruit. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, happy gardening!